Welcome to the Bomb Shelter. I am your host for this episode, Kevin Gloop Schumm.
And I am Jay Gleep McDowell.
Nice.
Ah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And if you don't know from those clues what we're going to talk about, then that's fine because you probably shouldn't. You'd be kind of weird.
Probably
if you
aren't
did.
listening to the show anyway.
Yeah. But on that note, the show that we're going to be talking about is a little show called from Hanna-Barbera, the Herculoids.
Somewhere out in space live the Herculoids. Zuck, the laser ray dragon. Igu, the giant rock ape. Tundro, the tremendous. Gloop and Gleep, the formless, fearless wonders. With Xandor, their leader. And his wife Tara and son Dorno. They team up to protect their planet from sinister invaders. All strong, all brave, all heroes. They're the Herculoids.
All right. Well, that was the show intro from the Herculoids.
Herculoids, at least we hope it is.
We hope it is. I haven't done it yet.
Because the way we record this, we just don't know for certain.
Yeah. I may put like the beginning of like some
Facts
other
of
show,
Life.
like Elf or something
Yeah,
like that.
there you go.
Okay, so anyway, the Herculoids was a American Saturday morning animated cartoon.
Brought to you by Hanna-Barbera.
Yep, like a lot of other things.
Yep, a lot of other things.
Yes. And it was from the 60s.
Yep, 67.
67.
And then ran to, what, 69, I
69.
think? Yeah. And didn't do very good.
No, it didn't.
It was not what you would call quality.
It wasn't good. Let me use that word.
It was, my word that I usually use in these situations is it was ungood.
Yeah. But I just bought it on, we were trying to decide what to do. And we're kind of on this, or at least I was sort of on this kick of like old shows I liked as a
The old cartoons
kid.
and stuff, yeah.
So one of them that always pops in my mind immediately, probably because I haven't watched it in 30-something years, is the Herculoids, because it's pretty awesome looking picture when you look at like the box cover or like whatever.
And then you put the DVD
And then
in.
you put it in.
And then it's not quite as good.
Not good. Ungood.
It is ungood.
But it's exactly what you'd expect. Kind of another one of those Hanna-Barbera shows where
It's done on the cheap. There's a lot of the same backgrounds used over and over and over in the
There's
same
a term
scene.
for that, and I can't remember. Where you'll see someone running, and it happened in a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. You'll see somebody running, and then the background just kind of like slides by over and over.
Yeah, it's like it's just on a wheel.
Loop, yeah.
And so it just keeps going.
So yeah, but having said that, as a kid, it impacted me obviously because I still remember it. I didn't have to look it up. What was that show? It's like the Herculoids.
Yeah.
I loved that show, and I don't know why, but then again,
we were easily entertained as children.
yeah, and it served its purpose. It had this sort of sci-fi vibe to it. It's got these weird creatures that were kind of they're kind of interesting. I mean, they're creative.
Neat. If not particularly well drawn, but
Yeah.
but it was Hanna-Barbera.
But yeah, so and if you haven't seen it, or even if you have, I think we're going to briefly go over sort of what the idea of the show is,
Well,
and
the characters
and all that.
So we got the Herculoids themselves. There's two, kind of broken into two camps.
Yes, humans
And creatures.
and creatures.
So we got, of the humans, we've got Dad Xandor.
Yep.
And he is he looks like He-Man, a little less bulky.
Yeah, kind of like somewhere between He-Man and Thundar the Barbarian, which may be coming up someday.
And then we have Tara, his wife.
Yep.
And Dorno, their son, who calls them by their first names, doesn't call them mom or dad.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense if they're on some weird planet.
Yeah, maybe they don't have the family like closeness that we have here on Earth.
Maybe Xandor and Tara are dad and mom in their language.
Oh yeah.
See, and Dorno is stupid kid who always gets captured.
But is it delivery or is it Dorno?
We may never know.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, on that note.
Yeah, on that note. That wasn't funny at all. Okay, on that note, so you have the three humans, the dad, mom, and son. And as we're watching this, of course, we're making all kinds of jokes. As like he doesn't call them mom and dad because they're not really his mom and dad. He's a little slave kid, or they purchased him.
He was bought.
Yeah. Okay, so you got the 3 humans. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures.
Yes.
You've got Zoc,
The flying dragon.
Yep.
Space dragon.
the flying space dragon, who can shoot laser beams from his eyes and his tail for some reason. Which
I don't
even
know.
as a kid, I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I always thought that
The tail
myself.
thing.
I was like,
Well, if he can do
okay.
it, well, he can shoot from his tail. Can he shoot it from his toes,
Fingers,
his talons?
horns, his little
Yeah.
goatee. He can also fly in space.
He can
too,
fly unaided through space.
which apparently everybody else can because they ride on his back
That's
to go to
true.
different planets.
That's
so
true.
because it's not that fancy of a power.
Yes, and Zoc was voiced by a guy named Mike Road.
Who voiced just about everything
Almost
else.
everything, yes, in the show. Egu
You?
is another creature,
A rock ape.
a rock ape, which looks basically like an ape made out of rock.
Yeah, pretty much. Just a big...
He's big. He's bigger than a normal ape, though.
He's a rock and an ape. A rock ape.
Yeah. Extremely large and powerful simian.
Yes.
Rock-like skin.
And he has a thing for Tara.
Yeah, he likes tar. Very
because
devoted.
you know, King Kong and blondes and stuff.
I wonder if that's sort of the idea.
I don't
behind
know.
it.
Maybe.
Number 3 of the creatures, which was my favorite as a kid, is Tundro, voiced by a guy named Mike Road.
Mike Road. How about that?
He is a 10-legged, 4-horned rhinoceros/triceratops
Hybrid.
who can shoot explosive energy rocks from his cannon horn, which is what made me think he was so neat. Because I mean, I don't know about every kid, but many kids when I was young loved.
Wanted cannon horns?
Well, they like dinosaurs.
Oh, okay. Well,
and this was sort of a neat little twist on it. Like, oh wow, he can shoot little energy rocks
Yeah. Well, yeah.
out of the cannon. I always thought that was kind of neat. He's got.
I think Triceratops were my favorite dinosaurs too as a kid.
Yeah.
Those and like Brontosaurus, which they're
Yeah.
not Brontosaurs anymore.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, because I kind of liked him too.
Yeah, he was my favorite of this on this show.
And we also found in the episode we watched he has stretchy legs.
Stretchy legs, which I didn't remember
I didn't either.
before, but it even mentions it on the
Little
the
description.
Wikipedia thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it didn't just happen in one episode apparently.
So there you go.
Well, finally, you've got 2 other little creatures.
Yeah.
One called Gloop and one called Gleep.
Yep. The one of 3 characters in the whole show not voiced by
Not
Mike
voiced
Road.
by Mike Road. Yeah.
They're protoplasmic creatures. I remember. I don't know if it was supposed to be the same character or just related, but remember the Shmoo?
Shmoo, yeah.
Yeah, and it was the same kind of thing.
And what
so-
was Shmoo on? Did he have his own show? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like the New Shmoo Mysteries or something like that.
Was he related to Captain Caveman? Remember that show?
No, but it was kind of in that same.
Yeah. I always think of them together for some reason, but maybe they were just on after.
Probably
each
they
other.
were on at the same time, but I
Yeah.
think they were both done by. I think they were Hanna-Barbera too.
Probably so, yeah.
So
But yeah, they look. If you don't know much about Gloop or Gleep, you may know Shmoo.
yeah,
And if you know Shmoo,
and if you don't know Shmoo,
Glooping. So yeah, they're basically these little white blob things. They have eyes, and that's it.
they kind of have a mouth, but it's like
Yeah.
the way that it was drawn. They weren't drawn with heavy black lines. They were drawn with. They were kind of yellow, kind of custardy looking.
Yeah.
And then they had like a light brown line around them and their mouth.
Yeah.
So it kind of looked like they were supposed to be like maybe translucent.
Yeah.
Because their mouth didn't move when they made their little noise,
Yeah.
but their eyes would blink. So I
Yeah,
don't know,
and
it
they'd
was
make
weird.
like if you could kind of tell their emotion by how their eyes looked. Sometimes.
Yeah,
like they get
something-
angry.
angry
or-
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mr. Potato Head.
So they're basically these big blob things. One's a little bit Gloop's a little bit bigger than Gleep. I don't know if they're like father son or mother daughter
Or one
whatever.
just
One's
branched off
bigger.
from the other.
That could be. But yeah, they're stretchy. It seems they can be like stretched and broken, and they just kind of form back.
Yeah,
together.
they can like make different shapes, like make parachutes, make trampolines, make mattresses. And then they can like make little teeny mini versions of themselves and like get out of traps and stuff like that.
Smaller little escape routes. One thing I thought when they turned into a mattress is like, I wonder, because this planet they're on, which is called, originally it was called Amazon.
But then it was like
Then they
changed
changed
to
it to
Quasar.
Quasar for some reason.
Yeah.
But the planet seems fairly like, even though there seems to be some sort of technology, like all the invaders seem to have like,
Yeah, they all seem to have some kind
Pretty
of
advanced.
because they can fly in ships and stuff
Yeah.
like that and use lasers and rays and stuff.
yeah, and they don't seem shocked the Herculoids don't seem shocked by any of this, yet they themselves seem to be kind of like more. Like,
well, they could fly it too, because in the one we watched, which we'll get to, they left the planet not on the back of the magic space dragon, but they got into the ship and flew it.
Yeah, but it's just this weird mix though, because I mean they're wearing like the clothing they wear is like
loincloths,
so it's almost like this like.
It's very much He-Man-ish.
Yeah, kind of He-Man.
Yeah, which makes me wonder if maybe they didn't kind of get that idea from. But
maybe
very much where Eternia was very sword and sandal, but also very high tech.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of like if they lived on Eternia, but like on the other side, away from Castle Grayskull.
Yeah, it's Castle Grayskull, and it's mine. Okay. Okay, and so what I was thinking though is like at one point either Gloop or Gleep. It's hard to keep them straight. Sorry, I'm not.
I think Gloop was the big one. Gleep was the little one.
But I mean I can't remember who did this. One of them made a mattress, and I was just thinking like, shouldn't Xandor say like, hey, can you do that like all night tonight, and then can I lay on you?
You mean we've been sleeping on the ground all this time, and you could make?
Yeah. So anyway.
And Gloop's like, no, I saw what you did last night.
Yeah. I'm not being around that. So let's see, how do I say this? We watched 2 episodes or 3.
Technically 2 episodes, but they each both have 2
stories.
Stories, because they're short.
We watched 4 stories, which equaled 2 episodes.
Yeah.
We watched episode 1 and then episode something else.
Yeah, I think it was like 5 or something like that.
But
we're really well studied for this one.
Yes, we are. And the reason it's hard to keep track is that basically the plot of every single episode is it's like a Mad Lib, like you were saying. It's exactly the same. It's basically Blank invades Quasar, and the Herculoids basically fight to keep them, to make them go away.
They're on the ropes for a couple minutes, and then all come back and rally in.
Yeah,
there we go.
And that's basically every single episode.
Pretty much. This is pretty much like the Spider-Man episodes.
Yeah.
And Voltron and He-Man.
Every single Hanna-Barbera
G.I. Joe
show.
Transformers.
Yeah.
Strawberry Shortcake. Smurfs.
I watched Smurfs. I don't think I watched Strawberry Shortcake. My sister did, I think.
Yeah, I think I watched a couple. I had a little sister, so.
Yeah. No, you didn't. He's lying. He doesn't really have... Okay.
Shh.
So yeah, this we after watching a few episodes, we thought this might be what we call like a mini episode, because there literally isn't much to talk about.
Yeah, there's not a whole heck of a lot of substance to the episodes.
Yeah.
Like we said, they get their tails handed to them for first 5 minutes, and then they rally back and lather, rinse, repeat.
And you interchange like, okay, this time it's the Spider-Man, or this time it's the pirates, whatever.
But it always seems like it's people that they're familiar with, but we've never seen before.
Yeah, there's always like one time. What are they?
The very first episode.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. Second story in the first episode.
Yeah.
The guy Sarko, the Arkman.
Yeah.
He goes, "Yes, you told me never to come back to this planet." It's like, we've never seen you before.
Yeah. So you're kind of picking up. It's just like there's all these adventures, but let's start here. They've had adventures before and after.
Yeah. Well, like a lot of these cartoons, there was no kind of origin story, because you don't even know. It's like, is this supposed to be Earth in the future? Is this a different planet? Which apparently it's a different planet. Yeah. Now that we know.
But you wouldn't know that necessarily from just watching the show. Yeah,
because they don't necessarily. Well, maybe they say it in a few other episodes, but basically it's just kind of like, okay, well, here we are, and spaceship shows up, and then starts trapping Herculoids.
I can imagine. I mean, I would actually be interested in a show where they go into the backgrounds. I'd like to know where they came from. And joking aside, like, is that really their son?
Where they've got Doro.
And just the strange characters, like, is Tundro sort of like a mutated creature, or is there a whole group of Tundros out there that can all shoot energy rocks?
Because you don't really see any other creatures, at least in the ones we saw.
Yeah.
So are these one-off monsters?
Yeah.
Were they something that were brought to the planet?
Yeah.
Are they mutants, or what?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be kind of interesting.
Kind of interesting. I'm sure that will never ever happen.
No, probably not. Get on it, Tarantino.
Come on.
We need a background story.
So yeah.
So apparently, they were the universes of the Herculoids and apparently Space Ghost were kind of shared. And I didn't watch Space Ghost as a kid because it never seemed to be on.
Yeah. I remember it, but I don't remember anything about it at all.
I think I remember him more from the Laugh Olympics.
Yeah.
And because they had everybody.
Yeah.
But I never remember seeing any real Space Ghost cartoons. But apparently the Herculoids show up in a Space Ghost episode at some point, and so that puts them in the same universe, if not the same area of the galaxy, at least in the same universe.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, did Space Ghost ever meet Scooby-Doo?
Maybe.
Maybe, so that would put them in the same universe.
That would be kind of neat. Universe.
And the fact that one guy did almost every voice, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But, yeah, so it's, I mean, if you've seen any of these type of shows, I mean, what are some of the others, which this list we're about to do off the top of our head might be future episodes, because I plan on buying some of these shows to kind of relive it.
Well, if it was Hanna-Barbera, you had Herculoids, I think Thundar, they were. Okay, well, that's my list.
Yeah, there's your list. I mean, Space Ghost, even though I don't think I watched it a lot. I used to really like a show called Birdman, which was sort of like a superhero kind of. I don't remember exactly, but I'll find out soon because I'm going to buy it on DVD. Yeah. And
so you're talking about ones like this show, or just Hanna-Barbera shows in general?
Just like this show, kind of, I guess, like this sort of sci-fi type. They don't necessarily have to be Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, well, okay, we had He-Man.
Yeah, He-Man
and She-Ra, of course. Yeah. But those came later.
Sort of like if you like the Herculoids, you may like.
Yeah, you may also like these.
Yeah.
I don't know. There were quite a few because I remember in the 80s, like I said, we had Thundar, and then they had a lot of cartoons where they mixed genres. Like you had, was it Brave Star?
Yeah.
Where he was a cowboy, but it was in space.
Yeah.
And we had not Thundercats, but Thundercats was kind of like this, except they were cats. What was it? Silverhawks.
Yeah.
Where it really didn't explain what they were. It said they were kind of cyborgy type of things.
Yeah.
But, and you know, the same thing. Bad guy comes, they fight him, they get, you know, rocked around a little bit, and then they come back at the end.
Yeah.
Although, those tended to have more, you usually had kind of the same bad guy. Okay. Maybe doing different things. It was like Thundercats, you had Mum-Ra, and you had Skeletor, and He-Man and stuff. And in these, it's kind of like the early years of Super Friends, who was also Hanna-Barbera.
Yes.
Where they didn't fight the Legion of Doom, they just fought whatever weird.
Come up with some weird bad guy.
Yeah. He may not even have superpowers. It was like, you know, this professor made a a kryptonite suit, and Superman's in trouble, you know.
Yeah.
So it was more like that than actually having a set bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was kind of now I think about it, that was kind of what happened with G.I. Joe, because they were G.I. Joe, of course we can talk about this on a different episode, but we'll talk about it here.
That's fine. We can talk about it now.
When Hasbro and Marvel were talking about creating G.I. Joe, they didn't have Cobra. Yeah. And so it was like, well, who are they going to fight? Because the original G.I. Joe, there wasn't really a bad guy.
Yeah.
In the Barbie doll size ones. And so then they came up with the idea of Cobra, and that was their, default bad guy, and it made it so you at least knew who they were fighting against and what they were fighting for, kind of thing. So slightly off topic.
Yeah, it's okay. This is an odd episode, and it's okay. I mean, I sort of assumed when we got this there'd be tons to talk about, but then I watched a couple episodes.
Yeah, and it's like, no, there's not a lot to go on this.
I was really little when I liked this show.
I was very easily entertained. Yeah, because these would come on like in the afternoon. I remember I'd come home from school, and for a while on Channel 11 in LA, they had can't remember what his name was, but it was like a show. And he would, if you sent in like, a self-addressed stamped envelope thing, you could win prizes.
Yeah.
But it was like, I remember Tom and Jerry would be on, well, depending on what you watched though. Because on Channel 11 was one type of cartoon, and Channel 13 was another. So Channel 13 usually had Tom and Jerry and maybe Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And Channel 11 had, I think, like Herculoids. I remember Inch High Private Eye was on all the time.
Yeah.
And was it the dog? He was really ugly, and he wore, was his name Ugly? He wore a doghouse on his head.
Pugly or
no,
I can't remember.
Nah, I can't remember.
I know, I can picture it, but I don't know.
He had a doghouse on his head, and every time he took it off, people would freak out because he was like super ugly. But anyways, they would have those cartoons. So it just depended on what you felt like watching. But but I remember Herculoids being on a lot.
Okay.
So it must have just been cheap and easy to get a hold of.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, it's not a very good show, but when you look at the characters, and the characters are kind of interesting. It's just they didn't do much with them.
Yeah.
I mean, because the you know, let me look at their names again. I always forget. Egu, the rock ape, he's kind of neat. He's kind of interesting. All he ever does is goes, rah,
and throw things and get rocked for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he gets it. Because it cracks me up how in these things, you know, he's supposed to be super, super strong.
Yeah.
He's like picking up trees. He's throwing stuff around. He's throwing boulders. And yet he couldn't get out of a cage.
Yeah.
Because these bars are stronger than you. It's like,
and then
metal.
literally like 1 minute later, he's like smashing his fist through metal doors. It's like, well, why didn't they use the strong metal on the doors? That's the strong metal that this giant rock ape can't break through.
Just a thought.
But yeah, I mean, if they would have gone more into I don't know if you're going to have them actually talk, but just to have more information, and maybe their target audience was kids who didn't want to hear about stuff like that.
Well, these were just cranked out so fast because they were cheap, and it was just like, get them out.
Yeah.
And they would crank them out, and then the quality of the story really didn't make any difference. I mean, Scooby-Doo had a little bit of, they had to put together because it was a mystery.
Yeah.
And even though it was very basic and simple, they still had to kind of put it together.
It had to kind of make sense.
But this was pretty much just, somebody landed on our planet. They're bad guys all the time.
Obviously, yeah.
And we got to fight them.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no character development beyond that.
Yeah, there's no like, hey, remember when that one time when something happened? No, it's just, I mean, every episode could be the first episode or the last episode.
Yeah. And I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, that way it's not like, oh, I missed one.
Well, and it keeps them kind of evergreen.
Yeah.
Where like, if you've got a show that has a history or kind of an anthology, you can't replay them out of order.
Yeah.
So like, remember Robotech?
Yeah.
Okay.
That mattered.
Yeah, you couldn't just go, okay, we bought the rights to Robotech and just throw them up however.
Yeah.
Because it was a story. But these, it was just like, you know, show whatever one you want.
Yeah, you can watch any order you want. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. So that was probably done, by design.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's see.
We were kind of...
We were hoping for a lot more.
We were hoping for more, but as I was watching and thinking, I think both of us were thinking the same thing, that this may be, I don't know if we've ever said this before, but maybe like a mini-sode or a mini episode.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, there just isn't much to talk about. I mean, we could go into the voice actors and say what else they had done, but that's kind of like,
yeah.
Who cares about that?
Especially, well, it would be a short list since there's 4 people. But I don't know. It's just some of this. I mean, we're kind of going back at least to our bad reputation.
Yeah.
Because this was certainly not very good.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't see. I mean, you've got the whole thing on 2 discs, which is awesome. But I wouldn't see sitting down and watching it over and over again unless you were like seriously hopped up on cough medicine.
I was gonna say, if I were sick someday, what I would like to do is stay home from work, pop this in, they don't deliver pizza where I live, but somehow get pizza delivered to me and just sit around and fall in and out of consciousness eating pizza, watching Herculoids, because I wouldn't miss anything. It'd be like, I wake up an hour later like, then they did that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'd think you were watching the same episode
because I kind of am. But yeah, maybe and I hate to do this live or whatever during our recording, but maybe now that we've learned our lesson from the Herculoids, maybe we wait until I get like Birdman.
We do a couple of them.
Yeah, at least 2, and then at least that way we can say like, this time we're covering Birdman and whatever else.
I think maybe for these
Thunder the Barbarian.
For these little ones, we kind of do do like a few different shows, and in part because these are so short anyway.
How long I didn't even notice, but the episodes are like 10 minutes.
If it's fitting into a half an hour, it's usually 22 minutes,
so probably 11 minutes each. With commercials, it's a half an hour show.
Which is weird, because as a kid they seemed like they were all half hour long.
I know. So. I mean, the other way we could go is we could do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-part series on the Herculoids. The first one we cover Gloop, then the next episode we cover Gleep.
There we go.
But no.
Which those would be easy to make. We just make it one and then just change the name.
Now, to me, I don't know if you thought this, but to me, Gloop and Gleep kind of sound like Gleek from Super Friends. The way they talk, slightly different, but the same idea.
Yes, and I think the guy who did the voice. Now I think about it, he did Gleek
also. Yeah, so that was maybe his.
That was his forte.
How annoying!
Was making really weird noises. Speaking of which, we did bring this up. The sound effects on these Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I always, even as a kid, I always wondered how they made, the screeching sound or the weird sound that the Spider-Men make, which I can't even begin to imitate. I've always wondered. I'm sure there's somewhere.
And it's weird growing up with these shows. Like if you were to take yourself out of this and just listen to the sound and then say, "Oh, that's the sound that happens when this character does this." It's kind of weird if you just step back. But growing up with it, it's just like, well, yeah, obviously that's the noise spiders make when they crawl. Well, no, it's not. In reality, it's not. But like,
it's kind of like grape soda. It tastes nothing like grape.
It doesn't taste like grape. Yeah, that's true.
They may as well just call it purple soda.
It's just this candy grape. But yeah, I mean, those sound effects are really interesting because you're like, number one, physically or technologically, how did they make that sound?
That's what I've always, even as a kid, I always wondered, because you could make some of the sounds when you were a kid, but it was, I don't know, it's kind of like, that's one of my favorite things in Star Wars is watching the behind the scenes, because I love watching how they made it and how they made the sound effects. And I would love to find, I'm sure there's somewhere online that tells how they did it. And I'm sure I'd be greatly disappointed to see it's just a guy running a comb over a piece of flypaper or something like that,
But it's, I mean, I almost wonder if there was just, I mean, I doubt they said, okay, we got this rock ape, and whenever he smashes this wall, it needs to make this noise. I'm assuming there was just this sound base of hundreds of sounds, and they're like, that one sounds good. But there's certain sounds, like, especially in Scooby-Doo, I used to notice it, like the, again, I can't make the noises, but if I say this and you grow up with this, you'll know the sound. Mm-hmm. Kind of this like rattling, like when they kind of like start running, but
it's like the bongos.
That thing. Like that noise literally doesn't sound anything like it would sound like if somebody tried to start running. But in my mind, it's like that's exactly what it sounds like when somebody starts running.
You hear it yourself when you try to start, and you're like, oh. I'm doing
I was watching a show the other day. One of my favorite sounds from any I remember what it is. One of my favorite sounds from any show, not animated, is the $6 Million Man sounds when he's his bionics, basically. And which we covered this on an episode in the past, but those sound effects originally in that show, there was no bionic sound.
It was weird.
It was really weird to not see them
because it was just slow motion. It looks like it's not finished.
It's like what happened to the sound?
It's like what happened.
But I've been watching this show. It's called Night Gallery, which is sort of Rod Serling's thing after Twilight Zone.
In the 70s.
Definitely not as good. Still, it's okay. It's worth. I think I spent like $15 for the entire series. But there's some good episodes and some bad. But I keep hearing that bionic sound in other episodes, and then I started thinking like, okay, well, what? That was just a sound that some person came up with and had it on a tape or something somewhere, and eventually the Bionic Man was like, oh, that sounds nice for bionics, let's use that.
Well, and that's the thing too, when you think about when these were made, they didn't have MIDIs, they didn't have computers where they could just bring up a sound bank and go, okay,
where's the explosion section?
Explosion A2, we want to use that. So these were just on tape, and then they would put it in to the show itself. So it's impressive that they did that.
Yeah,
Not just that they made it, but that they had to go through and splice this into every, or recorded in at least, into every episode. Or did they?
Yes, and that this idea just came to my mind, and I don't know if I feel like doing this much research, but a nice episode might be sound effects that we all grew up with, and do.
Oh, there we go.
We could do research into it. We could play the sound and do research into it, and say like, we found out that they made this sound by doing this, and you know it was used in Scooby-Doo and this and this and this, and usually it meant somebody was running or you know, that'd be kind of interesting.
That would be,
but it would be a lot more research than like Herculoids, where we popped in and watched.
Four episodes.
4 episodes or 4 stories, and then ran back here to the microphones.
Well, like keeping on the sound effects, though, the cartoons, I think it was like Scooby-Doo would have it and stuff. They would have a laugh track, and you knew nobody was watching it live.
Yeah.
But if you listen really closely to a lot of those shows, and then a lot of the live action shows that did supposedly have a live audience, you'll hear the same laugh track.
Yeah.
And what they would do, I guess, is just bring people in and go, okay, laugh.
Yeah.
And they would laugh. And then you'd hear, because like a prime example is the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Listen to it, and there's this one, and I can't figure out what, either the person has a weird laugh.
But you recognize it when you hear it?
Every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like, ha, and then he hears, like kind of sound.
Like, I know that one.
Yeah. And it's in almost every episode. So it's a laugh track because, of course, you know, wasn't recorded live. But it's weird that, you know, these sounds that we've heard, you know, for 40-something years now. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, I remember that from this show and this show and this show and that laugh track and that laugh track and that. So it is kind of strange. But it would be cool to go through and research those.
Pick some of the ones that are kind of like that stand out. I mean, like that running one would be one of the ones that pops into my mind immediately. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones.
Oh yeah.
Some of the laser sounds that you hear, you're like, oh, like in Herculoids, there are a couple sounds I'm like, I know haven't only heard that in Herculoids. I've heard that somewhere else.
Yeah, that one that sounds like the lasers from or the beams from the 50s version of War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
That you know, kind of sound.
That gets used a lot.
Yeah, they use them a lot. But, you know, now we hear every once in a while, and I don't know that they paid for it or not, but you'll hear lightsaber sounds sometimes. Yep. You'll hear laser sounds. Yep. You'll hear TIE fighter sounds.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, I'm like, did they just slip that in? Did they get it just short enough of a clip to not infringe?
But our ears and brains pick up on it. I mean, it'd be like, I mean, if you had never watched anything else, you'd just hear the sound. But for us, growing up with it, it's like, it might as well be like our mom saying, hey, Kevin. Yeah. Or my mom saying, hey, Kevin. I'm like, oh, wait, that's my mom. Not just that's a human saying Kevin.
Yeah.
You know, you recognize it.
But it's almost to the detriment of whatever it is you're watching. Yeah. Because like watching all the old Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera, we knew the weird running sound. We just knew what that meant.
Yeah.
It didn't mean Shaggy was doing it. It didn't mean Fred Flintstone was doing it. It just meant somebody's running in place and getting ready, revving up.
Trying to go fast. Yeah, get out of there.
But if I hear a TIE fighter sound in another show or another movie, I go,
it doesn't fit.
It's a TIE fighter.
Yeah, why is there a TIE fighter? This isn't Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a horse running by. Why is it a TIE fighter?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of to the detriment when you know it for one thing. When you know it as just a catalog sound kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's kind of it's shorthand almost. It's audio shorthand.
Yeah.
Whereas some it's just like nope,
like, that is a TIE fighter.
Yeah. There's nothing else that would sound like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though it was made up from many other things.
Well, yeah, an example of that might be, I mean, the rock ape in this, Egu, would go, which is similar to a Wookiee, but if you heard Chewbacca's sound, you'd say, wait, no, that's Chewbacca. That's not a rock
you
ape.
know that it is. Yeah. It reminds me of you doing that reminds me of a Simpsons episode where they were talking with one of the voice actors who did the Itchy and Scratchy show.
Yeah.
And I think it was Itchy and Scratchy. They're talking and this one person goes, oh yeah, I did the voice of the Roadrunner. And they just go, meep. And he goes, oh yeah, meep, meep. And they go, oh no, they only recorded it once and then just doubled it up. Cheapos, you know,
wow.
cheap so-and-sos, you know.
That's funny.
So yes, slight digression.
Yeah.
Kind of.
This whole episode is a little bit of a slight.
This whole episode has been all over the place. Yeah. Thank you, Herculoids.
I completely overestimated the Herculoids. I'm sorry. It's my fault. But I mean, look at this picture. Doesn't it look like something you want to watch? It is pretty cool.
Yeah. It does look kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, they are interesting characters. They're kind of like, it's not a whole bunch of rock apes. They're just except for the 3 humans. They're all very different from each other.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Kevin texted me. He's like, so what do we want to watch this time?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the other 2 options were, but he's like...
Yeah. It was, I was going to do Johnny Quest, or is Herculoids, Thundar, or...
Or Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest.
Yeah, and I said, well, I never watched Thundar, and I only watched a little bit of Johnny Quest. And he's like, okay, well, Herculoids.
Yeah.
So it's both our fault then.
Yeah, it's both our fault, yeah. I am still buying, and soon I will be buying Johnny Quest and definitely Thundar. Thundar has a big place in my... heart. And I won't mention it now because I want to mention it during that. Either if it's going to be a Thundar episode or a Thundar / episode, I'll talk about why I like Thundar so much.
But you watched it apparently.
Oh yes,
you watched it. Okay, yes. Yeah,
definitely.
Because
you did not.
I think something else must have been on.
There was something else you liked more, like Strawberry Shortcake or something like that.
Well, you never know. I can say for certain not Smurfs because I never watched Smurfs.
I did like Smurfs somehow.
I hated the Smurfs.
Why?
Gosh, I hated. I hated everything that was, oh, that's so Smurfy, and that's, Smurf this and Smurf that and Smurf you, and and the Smurf you rode in on and stuff. That had they done that, I may have been into it a little more.
See, now I won't buy. I watch the Smurfs, but I have no desire at all to rewatch it. Like I would never, if it was free, I probably wouldn't get the series on DVD or whatever.
I couldn't stand them.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But
my 2 cents on Smurfs.
Yes. This has been a breakless episode because I think we both kind of knew that. I mean, what are we going to... I don't know.
Basically, we just treaded water for how long?
Yeah, and I'm tired.
We really need to start amping ourselves up or something before watching movies.
Yeah, I need some jolt.
There we go.
Do they still... I know they made a comeback. I'm not sure.
I think so. Around. I think I've seen Surge around too.
Okay, next time I'm going to drink a jolt right before we start.
We'll man, that'll be our longest episode. Or fastest, one of the two.
Yeah.
And the end. Thanks for watching.
Okay, well, I think with that, I mean, it's a mini episode, but that's fine. I think with that, maybe we will
wrap this
one up, and that's fine. Some episodes that nobody listens to will be longer, and some episodes that nobody listens to will be a little bit shorter.
Which means all the episodes that nobody listens to.
Yes,
because we probably lost the rest of our listenership right now.
Goodbye.
We're not listening to these anymore either. So, all right then.
All right. Well, we will
to quote Egu.
Yeah. And to quote Zoc. And to quote Tundro, what did he do? Yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, and Gloop and Gleep. Yeah. So anyway, from the Herculoids and from all of us here at Herculoid City.
Yes. To quote Dormo, "Help! I've been captured again."
Captured by or fill in the blank. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we will say goodbye, and our next episode will be much, much better.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah. The Smurfs next.
Ooh.
Not really. Okay, bye. Okay, bye.